Hello and welcome to another episode of Kerbal Space Program in the series that I'm calling Escaping Kerbin, where we aim to visit planets outside of the Kerbin sphere of influence. Today we are going to take a very large step forward in that process as we decide to send a Kerbal to the Mun. First we're going to take care of a quick little contract just to make a little bit of money. There's going to be a lot involved in this today, and we're going to be losing a lot of money in this process. So every little dollar helps. So first, I took this contract because this engine is completely, I wouldn't say overpowered, but it's just perfectly powered. It's my favorite engine in the game. I took it so I could get it early, but I decided I had to complete it because I wanted to grab this plant a flag on the Mun contract, which is going to be the main thing that we're going to be working on today. We're also going to be working on another contract, but I'll get to that later. Here I'm spending some science to hopefully aid in my mission. I did need to unlock a command pod and better life support. And then I did end up unlocking this one, Advanced Construction, because I saw that it had the docking port, but I didn't end up using the docking port. I was going to do that. Oh, and then I spent last one on flight control, but I didn't end up using the docking port, so I could have saved that science for something else, but you live and you learn. Alright, so this is going to be primarily a science mission, so first and foremost we need to build that cargo bay. And if you've watched this far in the series, then you'll know that kind of know where this is going with the design of it all compacted in there. I threw these batteries on there because I put the probe core instead, so it's not going to have as many batteries as it normally would. And normally I put 3 batteries in there, but so I was playing around with trying to see how I could get extra power in there, but it is end up pointless because I do end up taking them out eventually. So yeah, so now I'm just separating each of the experiments so they're on their own thing. You need to remove them from symmetry if you want to add them into action groups to make them separate buttons to do each of the separate experiments. So you gotta remove it from symmetry. Now I'm working on the life support module, and that basically remains unchanged until much later. I don't really do much with it, but that's just a stack full of life support, and the cans were waste containers. This is to make sure it doesn't overflow while we're there, but I have so much more life support than we're going to need for this mission. But the idea is that if for some reason, if it goes sideways, if the rocket literally goes sideways and can't take off and Maxhat is stuck on the Mun, we want her to be able to live long enough for us to send out a rescue mission. So when it comes to life support, having too much is never a bad thing. So now I've got the return and the lander vessel coming in. Obviously that middle bit is going to be the return vehicle, and it's got more than enough Delta V to escape the Mun and bring us back. This rocket's going to end up being a little bit overkill, actually, just as far as Delta V goes. But it's better. I don't want our first mission to be a failure. Working very hard on this design, making sure that everything goes correctly. That being said, there's going to be a lot of trial and error in this episode. There's going to be a lot of failed attempts, times when I probably should have reverted, but due to the way that we're playing this particular series, we decided to take the failures at face value and kind of learn from them and redesign and come at it. So a good portion of this episode is actually going to be focused on the building of the rocket itself. So here's my first version. If you notice, I had to put extra wings on there because the center of lift was too close to the center of mass, that once it would lift off, it would flip. The craft was so heavy that I had to remove a piece. Luckily, I only had to remove launch clamps, and it was then light enough to launch. But you can see that it's going real slowly here. I'm going to go ahead and speed it up just because it took forever to launch. But it turns out that I didn't have my SAS on, and so I started to lose control of the rocket. In watching this after the fact, I kind of realized I could have saved this. I very well could have fixed the situation and not aborted, but in the time I decided it was probably better than risking Maxhat's life to just bomb the neighboring country with our space debris. So I just decided to bring Maxhat back and learned that the impact was a little too much for the landing gears. But all in all, she's doing pretty good. It was funny to see this thing spin for quite some time. This is sped up footage, but this was skating around for a while. So going back, it was primarily a factor of, I didn't have my SAS on, but in looking at my contract, I realized that I had a contract where I could get paid for doing certain experiments in both low space and high space, and 3 different experiments: a magnetometer, boom, a mystery goo, and the science junior. So I wanted to make sure that I had more experiments. I didn't want to just do low space to high space. I wanted to do science from the actual surface of the Mun. So I decided to redesign the science bay and make it so there's 4 experiments in there. So I go ahead and once again separate everything and put it onto their own action groups, and a lot more difficult because everything's all compact in there. But that's just the reason why action groups are so important. Is when you're in flight, you don't want to have to be digging through and trying to find the right one. It's like, oh, did I already use that barometer? Is this thermometer already taken up? Potentially, sometimes even you might even miss the biome that you needed to go into. So now I'm, because I took out, I also realized during that launch that I took out the life support module. So I just decided to put just these two little tanks on it, but that'll be enough for more than like 300 and some odd days, I think. So that should be fine. And that was those larger tanks of life support were part of what we unlocked when we unlocked the command pod. So might as well make use of them. So now I'm trying to work with my thrust to weight ratio. I'm having some difficulties with it, and so I'm going through the flight engineer, and I'm trying to see, like, will I have enough thrust to weight ratio at certain heights and everything. And from my basic calculations, I say that I will. Why I say from my basic calculations is that I am terrible at math, so my basic calculations were incorrect, of course. So this is how slowly we're lifting off. Once again, go ahead and speed up the time for you. But it doesn't take very long for me to realize the fault in my design, and that is once those side boosters pop off, my thrust to weight ratio is about 0.98. So even though I'm slightly going up, I'm losing speed fairly quickly. So I am not going to be making it. So I decided to quickly readjust my staging, throw those parachutes on next, pop both of them, and then aim to try to do a powered landing. I was also worried before those chutes popped on those lower boosters. I was watching them fall down. I thought I was going to bombard my launch pad, and then that would be another thing I'd have to pay. Because in this game, in career mode, if you destroy any of the buildings, you have to pay money to put them back together, which I kind of like. But I was thankful that the chutes popped in time, and that this powered landing was moderately a success. So I lied. It actually was a success. I didn't want to exactly spoil it. I realized we were still still coming down. So in KSP, a lot of the times people answer to a lot of problems is more boosters. I would argue that it's bigger boosters, not necessarily more, just bigger. So I've got these two big boosters to push us as our side boosters, just to give us more thrust, so we're not going at such an abysmal rate. And then I noticed that the thrust to weight for the center rocket is still fairly low when it needs to not be. So I decided to make two more side boosters, both with the crazy thrust of those bollards. And these side boosters aren't going to fire until the orange side boosters get ejected. I also make a smaller tank for that top bit because we don't actually need that much fuel to get to the mud. So yeah, so it's looking like a much better takeoff, going a little bit faster. I'm excited. Very helpful for this mission. And I think this one might be the one. Maxhat is excited, but also hesitant because she's been fooled before. But as we rise, everything seems to be nominal until we take another look at the contract and realize that we forgot the magnetometer bow. We forgot the probe core for the flight computer, so we would have access to the flight computer, and we forgot one of the experiments that we were supposed to be doing. So once more we try to bring this rocket back to Kerbin, but it decides to point forward, and it is coming down very hard. So we do a last-minute decision to just eject Maxhat to keep her safe, and sadly have to eat the cost of that entire rocket. So we were losing some money in this episode. Yeah, so we go ahead and we get the probe core, and we get the magnetometers. Get those all situated. I don't think there's anything else that we put on here. It's just mainly the science. Just get that. So it's clipping but not breaking. Get those added to the right stages. I decided to try to shove just a couple more batteries in there. Yep, everything looks good. Alright, so now I made some jokes about last time being, possibly the one. But in all seriousness, this is going to be the one. We are actually ready to lift off and go to the mud. We've got everything. We've tested our rockets. We've tested our ability to abort, which I think is a very important feature, or skill actually, for a pilot. To be able to think quickly in the event of a disaster. So yeah, it's pretty much a standard liftoff now that we've got our thrust to weight ratio situation taken care of. And because of the fuel ducts and the large engines and large tanks, we managed to make our orbit with basically the rest of that lower stage. Meaning that our transfer stage is now completely free for us. So that's nice. And I always like having the lower stage be the one to take care of the orbit, because it usually has the more potent engine, and you need speed at that point, so having a high thrust in a vacuum is quite nice. This poodle can finish off the orbit. Just make sure it takes care. The one downside that we've had with these launches is we left a lot of space debris, because that lower engine was within the orbit line when we decoupled it, so it's just going to continue to orbit. And in the next episode 2, I believe we actually end up leaving a lot of space debris. I've recorded a couple episodes ahead, just been making good progress. It's actually how this whole series has been thus far. Is usually when an episode comes out, I usually have about 1 or 2 episodes already on the editing table. So, because of our launch ascent, our relative inclination to the Mun was off, and so we were getting some real funky orbits, and so we decided to just go to our descending node and burn normally, which is the regular triangle, and change our relative inclination to match with the Mun. So yeah, so now that we're on the same plane, we can go ahead and try again for our intercept, and we do it with the utmost of ease. Look at that! Look how flat and equatorial that approach is. So we want to remember to get low space. We need both low space and high space, and there's particular experiments that need to be done at each, but I just brought enough experiments that will do all the experiments at both. And then that should cover the parameters of the contract. We go ahead and let the flight computer bring us in, and then I manually just fine-tune it, get a little bit closer. And go ahead and circularize. So far it's been a pretty textbook approach. We've still got plenty of fuel left in our transfer stage. Yeah, so Maxhat just gets ready for the long journey from Kerbin to the Mun. We see Min-Miss over there. I am saying Min-Miss. It might sound like I'm saying Mid-Miss, but I'm just I don't know. Maybe it's an accent thing. I've heard it back again, but I am saying Min-Miss. So yeah, so we're approaching the Mun, and we're gonna make our circularization burn, and I believe we end up making space trash out of that transfer stage as well. I don't think well, yeah, obviously we don't get it to crash into the surface, so it's just gonna be orbiting either the Mun itself, or it might be orbiting Kerbin in a very large elliptical orbit. Let's see. Nope. Yeah, it's going to be orbiting the Mun. So I actually have a plan. I have a little bit of a short-term plan and a little bit of a long-term plan for what to do with the space trash. The short-term plan is going to be a little more apparent in one of my later episodes when I deal with the satellite communication that I put up on Min-Miss. We've already done that. It's very exciting. But that one I have a plan for the... Sorry, slapping my hands together. I'm excited. I have a plan for the space debris on that one. I'll explain more about that one later. But the long-term plan for space debris is once we get our space stations up and running, and we have extraplanetary launch pads set up, and we have the ability of making space planes in a way, I'm thinking about getting a type of space plane together that has an item called the recycler on the front, which will go and find the space debris and then eat it up and turn it into spare parts and bring that back to the space station, use that to make rockets. I was just talking through that. We just did in space low, or no, we did in space high right there with all the science experiments. So we're coming down for a touchdown. Killing off some of our horizontal speed. It's going to be Maxhat's first landing on any celestial body. It's very exciting. And coming down on a slope, which is not thrilling. I mean, it is thrilling, but it's not optimistic. But thankfully, the rocket has a wide enough base that it holds. I'm very thankful in this moment for putting on that second set of landing gear on each thing. I think that actually did help a lot. We go ahead and we run the science. This would be our third set of experiments. And this craft is called the Frog because it's meant to hop to at least one more biome. So yeah, so of course Maxhat's going to go out and complete the contract by planting a flag on the moon. No one has to know about that, of course. Cameras weren't turned on, no one saw. We're just going to go and we're going to plant a flag, you know, for the glory of Kerbin and all Kerbal kind. Our first Mun landing, first of many. So now it's time to get back into the pod, and she's got to use her jet thrusters RCS pack to get up there. And in doing so, she thought about maybe taking a few photos for posterity. So she turns her camera on, decides to pose with the picture of the rocket. First Kerbin to ever do it, and she's live streaming, and people are watching. The whole world is looking at her as she's trying to get a nice shot of the rocket ship, and then they get to see it in her smiling face, and then suddenly, how did she get here? So now we got one more biome to visit before we take off, and so I go ahead and I checked out the map, and I decided that I want to go east a little bit because we're right on the edge of a crater. And I'm sure that if we could just get right over the lip of it, we'd find a new biome. And so we just thrust just a little bit, and it actually doesn't take long until we switch into a new one. We're right above the Midlands right now, but we end up overshooting it because it's a very thin band of the Midlands, and so we overshoot it and end up in the Highlands, which is a little frustrating because I end up finding out about that contract. Well, let's just land first. So I go ahead and just, bring myself down ever so slightly, and then we go ahead and do the science. So here's the thing about the contract. It wasn't going off, it wasn't getting the check mark saying that I had done it, and I was very confused about that for a little while. And then I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh, it's saying in orbit of low space, and so, oh yeah, I'm waggling because we have plenty of life support, and so that's great. So my contract needs to be done in low space or high space orbit or whatever, and I'm like, oh, maybe it's because I was suborbital at the time. We are coming home now. So I thought it was because I was suborbital at the time. Turns out that contract is for Minmus. The gathering, the magnetometer boom, the one that we forgot, the material science bays, the high space, low space, all of that was for Minmus, not the Mun. And the reason why that's frustrating is because I brought 4 sets of experiments on a vessel called the Frog that was meant to hop multiple biomes and had plenty of fuel to do so. But because of this contract, because I misread it and thought that we'd be doing that in addition to the planting of the flag, and we'd be, being real efficient with it, I decided to do the science in high space and low space. It's true we didn't have that science, so it's still a good science to get, but it's not worth as much as the science that we could have gotten on the surface of the Mun. And the fact that we were so close to so many different biomes right there that it would have just taken just a few puffs, just a few little jolts of fuel, and then we could have gotten to potentially 4 different biomes and then gotten all that science and brought that home. So, but you live and you learn, and you make rockets while you do it. So now it's just a matter of coming home. We have a very high elliptical orbit. We're coming in at many kilometers per hour. So I make a maneuver node here at the periapsis to bring in the orbit, basically. And since we have so much freaking fuel, like, I don't have to worry about anything at all. It's a very easy maneuver. Like, everything is working out in our favor right now. Sure, we may have purchased more fuel than we needed to and had bigger engines, but it also kept us more stable, having taller tanks. So it's always a give and take in this game. Perfectly 100% efficient is very hard to achieve. So yeah, so now that the tanks are empty, we go ahead and knock them off, and because we had fuel docks, that means that center tank is completely full. And that center tank right here is probably enough to get us back to the mud if we wanted to. So we end up wasting a lot of fuel out of this stage right here, but this stage did us well, so we bid farewell to it. We send it off to burn off in the atmosphere gloriously. And we go ahead and get ourselves pointed retrograde. Those solar panels aren't on, they're not on decouplers, so they're gonna burn up. They're just meant to burn up. After last episode's situation where I was meaning to decouple the solar panels and decouple the engine instead, I just decided to say hell with it and just let them burn. So I got my radiator going. I got my reaction wheel keeping us steady. There goes the solar panels. We have enough electric charge that our SAS is holding retrograde perfectly. We just do one little flip, and then our chutes automatically deploy because we armed them before coming in. So all in all, I'd say that was a perfect launch and return, and I was very happy with how that goes. So with that, I am going to say goodbye. This episode has been so much fun, and I'm so excited to show you the next one. Thank you all for watching, and take care.